Right. Alright, man, start by saying all praises to Yahweh, Shem Yahushai, Shem Arakakadash, double wonders unto the apostles and the elders of great north from the new wealth, and shalom to the overall elect. Alright, we're out here again to prophesy the downfall of this kingdom, which is known, headed by America, known as Babylon the Great. Alright, and right now we're over in the UK prophesying live and direct from London. And the city of London, mind you, you know, we're here, man. And this is one of three, really, Babylon the Great, America is a great place. That's the kingdom I spoke about in all the prophecies about a time like never seen upon the earth. That's the land of America, all right? It's in the name. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak. America going back to the bitter waters during the time of Exodus, which basically is America is bitter for who? The children of Israel, according to the prophecy in Deuteronomy 28, all right? And that's basically why it's like that, okay? We're over here in the UK prophesying the downfall of this kingdom as well, man. Because people has a stronghold over the whole earth, man. And when you go by the statue in the book of Daniel, the second chapter, what did it talk about? It basically spoke about, you know, the head of gold being Babylon, all right? Which was great in opulence, and that's why it was golden, all right? The most precious metal, but then gold is very soft. So when you get to the Roman Empire, it was steel, or iron, should I say. And iron is very strong, but it don't cost a lot, all right? But now we're in the time of the toes, all right? The 10 toes. The 10 toes down, basically, where it's basically mud and clay and iron mixed together, which shows you the weakness of all these basically the foundation of all these eastern kingdoms. And the Lord is about to turn up with that great millstone to take away everything, man. And that's what we're prophesying on, all right? Because again, the word prophecy means to say before. So we've been given the word, we ate the roll, all right? And the Lord basically gave us the word. We're going to go forth and tell everyone, as it tells you in Isaiah 34, tell everyone, the whole world, by the incoming doom upon the impending doom upon this earth, all right? And really it's onto salvation for the elect of the nation of Israel, but it's onto condemnation of them that are outside of the elect. You got something?
Obadiah 1:1, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Most High Power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Most High, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. And that's a transformation we've seen through the process of time. You know, the West, America, Europe, the way they were once heralded and looked at, everyone else was looking towards them. Like the way these guys are doing it, no one else on earth can do it like that. There was that spirit on people where they were really looking at the West like that. But this has been coming off. And that's why you got like them guys in Afghanistan that were saying death to America. And he had
they
new.
weren't saying death to America.
And then
they were saying that's what she said, but they were saying all praise to God in Arabic. That's why it was funny, because it was like, they ain't saying that. I'm sure that don't mean that, does it? It means praise to God. So that's what, but it's just funny. But no, go ahead.
That's more Iran thing. But you've had over various parts of the earth, and there's places where they don't even want American, what they call it? Not visitors. Tourists, American tourists. There's places that don't even want to open it back up to America. So that whole spirit of the West being looked as that radiant light on earth, that's been coming up. And people really, that's something that's not going to come back.
I've got a precept for that. The book of Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it got wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
That's it. With that whole American systems, it's just a rebirth. It's bringing back those old systems that everyone fell in love with before. Because when you deal with Rome, that was something where it went on. It had its run whilst Esau was there at the head of it, but then afterwards Jake took over, and then that led into the Dark Ages, where you had the Jake kingdom set up all over Europe. But there was still reverencing onto Rome, man.
I've got another place.
And that's something that through the Renaissance, that was essentially bringing back that worship of Rome, man, that love of Rome. And then going back to all those practices, because why? Because Esau, the original Roman, the true Roman, came back into power. That's why all the Roman systems came back. And in the modern day, you've got what? You've got Senate houses, you've got the architecture, what they call it, Doric pillars, that goes back to Petra, goes back to Rome. That in Esau's spirit, it's been all over all the desolate places that Esau said he was going to build back up. They've been built back up. Why? They've been brought back. The deadly wound was healed.
Another one. Book of Revelations 20:1 down to 3. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. You want to break it down as you go along?
Done.
Yeah, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
Yeah, that bottomless pit, that's talking about Europe. So we're well done.
And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
Yeah, so that Esau's power structure, this is what I was talking about with the fall of Rome. Because, well, it's even they talk about the fall of Rome, they include the time period where Jake was getting up in the power structure and took it over. But then what really is the original Rome fell. Like the dragon was bound up, because that's the dragon is what? Esau's power structure, the so-called white man's power structure. It was bound up for the 1,000 years, and that's where he was regressed to that state that's recorded in like the 13th tribe, where you had these guys in caves living like the basest of men.
And the book of Job prophesied of that.
Done. And then had it flipped again. Well, done.
Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, they should deceive the nations no more, so the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after
it was sealed, and he said what? So he deceived the nations no more. That's one of the first things he did when he came back, and it's the same thing that was going down back before. You go to the time of the Greeks, you have it recorded in Maccabee, they laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint their images. From back then, Esau was covering the faces of the judges and basically pushing out his lies, his deceptions over the whole earth. And that's the same thing that went down as soon as the seal was released. When he woke up in the time of the Renaissance, first thing he did was what? Cover those images. Because why? He knows in that image there's power. That's why he instead set up his own image within there, and that's it's had such an impact. It's still going on to this day. To this day, them same images are still looked at and reverenced. Because why? That's how much power there is in it, and that's why us, tearing that down and bringing out the truth through the scriptures. Then what? We're having the exact same impact. Where Esau's power structure is losing credibility. Because why? The truth was coming out, and hey, everything that Esau's been pushing out has been found to be lies. And more people are waking up to like, oh, this is why you have so much Esau's having trouble pushing out his agendas. Because why? More in Europe, people have been, like France is a good example. France has been resisting any and everything that gets pushed out. Them guys were like even before the lockdown for like over a year, just out protesting non-stop. So that's why everything, all Esau's power structure, how it went down before, where you have like one newspaper, two newspapers, maybe a radio broadcast or a TV show, TV news, and then everyone's getting the same message. Now all that's been killed by the internet.
Yeah. And after he must be used a little season.
Yeah. That's that little season. That's what we're in the midst of, and that's why it's really, since you go back to the time of Renaissance, it's not been too long, and that really came to an end within like 1970, because from then it's been the end.
Well, it ain't the end. It's the beginning of the end.
Done. Yeah, because from that point, that's when he's been basically getting the decline in his power.
Circling the drain.
Yeah, and it's what Esau's the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. And they said what Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. So that's through Jacob. That's how Esau was brought down. Same thing. You go to what is it? Genesis 27, where Esau's blessing the sword. For that to get set up, Jake had to be brought down. So you can't have two at the top at the same time. That's why. He was sealed and he was unsealed. And now it's the time where all that little season is coming to an end. We're having it where it's day after day, more and more prophecies are being fulfilled. And then once it's that time, Yahushua is going to make his return, then it's a wrap. You got anything else? I got more over there. Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, but saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars. And
it says though that's the main symbology of Esau Edom, which today is known as the so-called white man. Alright? Literally where we are right now, if you travel towards the sea, further down towards the sea, there's actually a big golden eagle on a memorial site. A ginormous one, man. Big. Alright? And
what's my monument?
No, not monument, just down there. Towards the Big Pedal. Because you got Cleopatra's Eagle, you got Obelix, and then you got an eagle over there. So all the symbology of this place is being perpetuated in their main, their main hotspot. Right, this being a city centre, and also known as one of the free, and also what do they call it in their language, how they call it, city states. Yeah.
Though thou set thy nest, though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Most High. If thieves came to
and that's what happened during the time of 1969, right? You basically had Apollo 11 that they basically set them, so-called set their nest in the stars. They said they went up to, the space race. They outdid Russia. Basically, the moment they did that is when there was an onset of their downfall, basically. But then, that's when, and what was the main onset of their downfall of anything? First, I would say prophecy, because the Lord prophesied of this happening, and that basically is end. But in saying that, the double entendre that was the fact he had High Priest Abba Bivens basically being risen up to prophesy the downfall of his kingdom. And that's why you had the 70s being a great era when Jake found their identity. Alright, they went from the conquering the Caesars to like the Afros and things of that nature. Alright, and I was basically them reclaiming that it was like a how could I say, it's like a fallout of the vibration of truth that High Priest Abba Bivens put out there through the spirit. Alright, and I was really embodying what? 2nd Ezra's 6th chapter. But Esau is at the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So the Lord put that energy, that spirit out there, and that really brought about consolidating Esau's energy.
Malachi 4 and 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Most High. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Yeah, so that's prophecy and reincarnation, which is essential, is key to understanding the scriptures. Because that as well is that prophecy and reincarnation. That's why you had Elijah come back. You know, the brother mentioned, high priest Abba Bivens was the reincarnation of Elijah. And that's how these words are being fulfilled. Because that's the thing, is even when you go to those elect men, they've been basically playing the same role. The men that have been out there riding out for this word, riding out for the truth from the beginning until now. And that's why. And it's the same, that same wicked, adulterous generation that he had in the wilderness. They've now come back and they're doing the same thing. They're trying to stay in Egypt, man. They're trying to go back to that spirit of Egypt. And that's why all these things that are playing out, it's prophecy being fulfilled. And that's why it's the guys in the church, they can't get it. They can't piece it together. You can't just then have it where it's been one set of spirits over and over again. And then all of a sudden you're just going to throw that all out and to bring in complete strangers.
I got this scripture.
No.
1 Corinthians 4:9. I've got two actually. 1 Corinthians 4:9. But I think that the Most High have set forth us, the apostles, last, as we were appointed to death. For we are made a spectacle unto the world and to the angels and to men. And this how we made a spectacle unto men? By going out on the highways and byways and basically teaching His word. Right now, we're in the city. You got tourists, you got random people looking up and down. And when they see us, when their cars across the road, when they see us, they think, what the hell's going on here? They'll look into it because they're suspecting, right? They become a spectator. But the main point is, I'll read it again, 1 Corinthians 4:9, I'll just read the beginning part. For I think the Most High have set forth us, the apostles, last. So that goes into what the brother read in the book of Obadiah about in the time of Abba Bivens basically risen up and prophesying to bring in, ushering in the kingdom of the breath of life into the children of Israel, and only the elect of Israel, alright? Because basically what did you have before that? You had men like Malcolm X, you had men like, what's the other guy, Martin Luther King, alright? And then you had the other guy, what's his name, from Benjamin, Marcus Garvey, right? So you had all these different people. You even had Nat Turner. You had different people, inclined in some way, but they didn't come in the form of the gospel, right? So to read it again, then one more as well. Actually, let me just get ready to read it. 2 Ezra 6 and 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the part and the thunder of the time, and when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? Right? So this is Ezra inquiring of the Heavenly Father of when the end will be and the beginning of the new. Right? Verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first to go of Esau. Right? Now Jacob who had made a change in Israel and became the father of the Israelites, right, after wrestling with an angel. And he had the 12 tribes of the house of Israel, being the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But he also had his twin brother, Esau Edom, which they have known as so-called white man, which basically is ruling right now. Right? Everyone has a biblical nationality when you look into the Bible. Right? The Bible ain't changed, the world's changed. Right? The deception, as we read earlier in the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, has happened over the masses of people. Okay? So I'll read it again, 2 Ezra 6 and 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Alright? For Esau, alright, the so-called white man as is known today, is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right? Jacob being the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But with every kingdom is a transition of power, right? The kingdom don't just get taken out of power, right? Even you have the example in the book of Daniel, where you had it wasn't Nebuchadnezzar, it wasn't Nebuchadnezzar. was
No.
the last Belshazzar. Yeah, so you had the last king ruling over Babylon, and you had the writing come up on the wall, right? But even though that happened in a swift manner, there was Belshazzar, there was folks working in the background. They didn't just the Midianites, the Persians didn't just, no, it's the Medes. The Medes just didn't materialize in the course of Babylon. Just like no, it was a place set in motion, but they were taken out. Right, the same thing now. We're gonna be changing the twinkle of an eye, and it's gonna look like it just happened instantaneously. But there's been groundwork that's been laid, and there's a process being applied. It's like when they say someone's an overnight success, that they just woke up one day and it was just, became a superstar. No, they had a talent that they pushed and they manifested to the point of where they could reap the benefits at one moment, right? And that's the same way this kingdom's going to transition from one hand to the next. And if you're paying attention to the signs that are written inside of the Bible, what you'd understand is that they're coming to fruition right now. Everything's happening. That's spoken in the book of Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, right? All these prophecies inside the book and various other prophecies in the book of Jeremiah, Isaiah, Malachi, Obadiah, as we're reading, right? All these things are manifested before our eyes.
Psalms 49 and 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call land after their own name. That's more the point I wanted to hit from what the brother said. Because everyone has a biblical nationality, but these things have been changed over time. And why the main person behind that in the modern day is Esau. Esau's gone round and just tagged people with whatever name he desires, where it's just completely switched up who they are.
And that's why you would find most of the places on the earth, the names go back to Greek or Latin, because they've been names that Esau's basically placed on the massive people. Right? You have a few obviously that still keep their true Hebrew names. Right? They'll be able to go back and say, like the Arabs, for example, they'll say we're Ishmael. Or you have the Ethiopians, they'll say they're Cush. Right? Various people. And then even through the spirit, you have sometimes where they keep names within their culture, but they don't understand that that's actually something that goes back to their, like I went into a Elam shop, yeah. See, it's funny, spirit said that. I went into an Elam shop and it's got Elam on, something like that. I was thinking, these lot don't even know they're Elam. But it's something that's just been in their culture, it's probably passed down somehow. And they felt
they all split for like, well, that's like, a part of Esau's is going right. It's like with North Korea, South Korea, like it used to be North Vietnam, South Vietnam, all these countries. Esau will come and split them up. Because why? That contention makes him easier to get what he wants out of them. And that's kind of when it's split between what right after World War II, Russia and America, man. That Cold War where they were just basically blocking the position, man.
The book of Job 14 and 5. Seeing these days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So this man, the Heavenly Father is appointed that everyone has a time of rulership, right? And the best embodiment of that is the prophecy in the book of Daniel, as I mentioned before, Daniel the 2nd chapter, where it speaks of the statue with the gold head, the silver breast, so on and so forth. And that basically denotes the period of rulership of all the various heathen, right? And that's basically what happened. The Heavenly Father set the bounds in accordance with his word and his prophecy, right? And his words ain't gone out of void. They're going to accomplish what they've been set out to do, as they told you in the book of Isaiah 55:11. Okay? So we're in the midst of this right now. You got something?
Yeah, still got more over there.
I got one more.
Is it more?
Yeah. The book of Mark 13 and 20. Alright? It reads, and except the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, whom you have chosen, you have shortened the days. And it's funny because even I was talking to individual in the world, alright, or kind of cool, but basically he acknowledged that the days are moving fast, alright, and that's not even thinking that I didn't cross the prophecy upon him. He just said it like, yeah, the days are moving, the days are just flying by, man, and that's basically what everyone can see that. Time is flying.
Yeah, a couple of people said that at work as well. It's like, don't say, oh, where's the year gone? It's already August.
Yeah.
Feels like it was January yesterday. And that's really, that's the general vibration that's been there. So that's why the days have been shorter.
But everyone may think that that's not that. Even I know our mother said it. I remember she said to me, school, you know, like once you leave school, you realize how quick time is kind of thing. But the funny thing is because that will make, the reason why I mentioned that, because that will make you feel like time moving really fast is a normal thing. Because the generations before you felt like time was moving fast, but they don't get that. We're in the end of days. And that's why a lot of people...
No, it's not going to be like that forever.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of people, the book of Peter, where it says about time, where it speaks about since our fathers fell asleep, all things continue as before. So they don't know that before this is all you know as of now, alright? But this when you read the book and everyone keeps on saying time is short, you will understand and you'll be able to pick the bones and say, yo, we're in the last days.
Obadiah 1 and 5. If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they have not stolen till they had enough? If grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid wounds under thee. There is none understanding in him. Yeah, that's all that so-called glory that Esau's kingdom got amongst the heathen. That's gonna come. That's gonna be ended. It's gonna get to the point where everyone's gonna be looking like, yo, hold on, what? Who's this guy, man? Why have we been reverencing, man? And they're gonna, the spirit's gonna be put on them where they're gonna turn against it. And then and that's the thing. It's what they that eat that bread. Everyone now, they're all doing business to the west with a beast system. Everyone's integrated and dealing with a beast system, man. When that's why you have what the petrodollar does more or less at the baseline of it. When you're getting I booked a little while ago. When the petrodollar, when you're getting fuel, now you got to utilize that resource. You got to utilize that petrodollar, and that's everyone's got to trade with that. If you try and go outside of that system, you'll find sanctions getting thrown on you real swift, because that's a core part of how how America's dominance has been maintained.
And that's why with the XRP right now, Ripple, they're trying to buy time before they basically give it the green light. They basically want a backdoor on that thing so they can sustain their power, right? But in reality, what's happening is the prophecies are being fulfilled with America basically losing its power and being taken out of the scene, all right? That's what's going on.
Shall I not in that day, saith the Most High, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Yeah, that's all that wisdom, all that, and that wisdom is a big part of why Esau holds himself in such esteem, man. Why the West, as these guys have maintained dominance, is that wisdom that's been passed on to them. But these things...
Even with the Germans, that's the main focal point.
It's like the main one was, once that, the A-bomb and nuclear technology
Manhattan Project, yeah.
was once that was completed, then was like a whole complete different level of domination.
And it's funny because they're the ones that brought them into power with their wisdom. But that's the same thing that's going to take them out of power. Let me quickly read Isaiah. Great stuff. So it's the book of Isaiah 54 and 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in a fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waystone to destroy it.
Yeah, the Smith was, those scientific minds that were basically put to purpose to develop that atomic and that nuclear technology. These things were basically set up by the Most High. Why? To bring about that weaponry that was, on one hand, like the brother said, it will give Esau the dominance for now, but the ultimate goal of it is to bring about Esau's end. And that's why it's that position of dominance, that's longer. Man like India, Pakistan, Iran, every North Korea, all these countries have access to nuclear technology. And that's even the playing field. And that's what, for the sake of prophecy. Because all those, it's like I agreed, all the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border. All the people that were previously working with America, they're going to switch on it, man.
And you can kind of see the cracks, the chink in their armor. Because a lot of things that's going on dealing with on a geopolitical level with America and their people that are confederate with them is basically coming to a halt. In terms of like Europe, for example, energy gas lines. You have Germany and Russia trying to work together for the supply of energy. All right, and that's really going against everything that America represents. They're basically making themselves at odds with the same people they have a treaty with, the NATO treaty. All right, but that shows you that there's a division being made and it's laying the groundwork for prophecy. Yeah, I'll read this. Your mother. I think it's Jeremiah 50. It's because I didn't bring it out so long. I thought it was Revelation. They that were peace with me. There's that, but then I know.
Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And that's a key portion of Esau's judgment. Because when you deal with Jacob and Esau, it says I was a little displeased, but forwarded the affliction. Esau basically took, he was basically used as a whipping stick to punish Jacob. But he took it to an extent where it shouldn't have gone. And that's why he's invited further destruction upon himself. Because that's the thing. It would have been in Esau's favor more to let the Most High send angels down to judge Jacob. That's why you really don't want to get, because it's even though it's the Most High had it set up where you're going to be used to punish Jacob, taking on that role. That doesn't, in the long run, you're inviting your own judgment. And that's the thing with Esau. That is counted as a crime. For you to lay your hands on the apple of the Most High's eye, on Israel, then you've invited judgment, you've invited punishment upon yourself. And that's a big portion of why Esau's going to get, his punishment is going to be so severe. Because he's basically laid his hands on the children of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and he's not let go, man.
Tells you in the book, the laws in the book of Exodus. It tells you that if a mound be stolen and it be found in thy hand, the judgment's written, man.
That's the other thing. Esau's taking the law on himself. That's why he took the scriptures. But then what? If you've now invited yourself into receiving those judgments, those punishments that are written, which is why it's what? The curses that are on Jacob, they're going to be flipped back onto Esau.
Could you read this? The book of Exodus 21 and 16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, we shall surely be put to death.
Yeah.
And that's the judgment that Esau has hanging over his head. Alright?
God. Cool. Let me go back. It says what? In the day that thou stoodest on the Obadiah 1 and 11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah, in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. So yeah, all those things, glorying in Jake being taken down, that's something that you're catching yourself, you're being caught slipping, mate. Because that's not been forgotten. And that's the thing with Esau's crime. Now with it, Esau's had his little season. There's no judgment has appeared yet. The punishment hasn't materialized. Therefore, because of that, then he's emboldened further. He's thinking he's justified. He's now righteous in punishing Jacob. But that's the opposite of it, man. That's you're further increasing your judgment.
It's the book of Psalms 50 and 18. When thou sawest a thief, then thou contendest with him, and hast been to partake of adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue craveth deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thine own mother's son. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes.
That's look. And that's when you go back, Jacob and Esau, they came out the same womb. So they were blood brothers, but then what, it was two different nations. And that's why as well, there was such contention. You had the spirit of the wicked and the spirit of the righteous. And since then, Esau's still, that enmity is not gone anywhere. To where it's manifested, Esau's been able to indulge in it to the extent of his desires. He's been able to work, he's still to this day, he's able to indulge in his hatred of Jacob. But then what's going to go down? Once a recompense starts, then it's going to get emotional, it's going to get messy. And that's the thing that Esau don't want to engage with.
But it's also the thing as well, not to know what you're saying, just to add on to what you're saying. Basically, Esau broke the brotherly covenant, right? Because guess what? Jacob and Esau, they're brothers, right? Right? So what he did is he broke the brotherly covenant, and in doing so, now he's also that same brotherly covenant that he had with his nation is basically going to be to his own detriment. So I'll read this in the book of Mark 3 and 24. It says, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, the kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Alright? And as I told you, when I mentioned before, We're in a time of the 10 toes, all right? Part being miry clay and iron mixed together. But as iron and miry clay don't mix together, so is the kingdom won't as well, all right? And that's basically Esau, Edom. That's why you have weaker nations like Portugal, Ireland, Italy, and Greece and Spain. Because the Heavenly Father set up that divide, and really it's through, you know, it tells you in the book of Proverbs, I believe, or another scripture says the wicked is I think it's in the book of Sirach, but it's basically how the wicked can't work to something to the effect of that. I'll find it later or I'll look for it. But reading on it says verse 26, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And that's what we're in the midst of right now. We're in a time of a great divide of Satan, right? Which is Esau, Edom, the salt of whack, right? Nah, that's it.
Over there at 1 and 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. And yeah, that's really Esau. What he's done is going to be returned on him. So this is what I was going to read. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. But the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord.
Who's the enemies of the children of Israel? The so-called Negroes, the Spanish and Native Americans. What you got to do is go a chapter before that, and it tells you that the Heavenly Father will send our enemies against us. That being what? Esau, Edom. Right? The so-called white man has shown nothing but hatred to us throughout the course of history that we've been upon this earth. And that's why you have someone like a dummy like Tazariak, which is apparently, according to what he said, basically taking the Maxine, you know, and basically saying that, you know, that we should take it. That's how you know he took the bag, man. He took the purse. Because how on earth, history, even someone in history can tell you how many times with the Tuskegee experiment, the smallpox being given to Gad, right? All these different things that Esau done to our people throughout the course of history just shows you
AIDS and shit as well.
AIDS is painted in, all right? All these different things that show nothing but hatred, all right? And the thing is, he don't even care about his own. So what makes you think with the course of history that he's gonna care about us, all right?
I thought wait for John 10 and 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is an hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth. And the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling fleeth, because he is an hireling, and careth not for the sheep. Not for the sheep. Yeah, that's hireling behavior. Because as far as when it comes to that Max, there's no, like, as far as when it comes to scriptures, that basically eliminates any any justification for you to go forth and take it. Then you layer on top, never trust thine enemy. You layer on top multiple scriptures as well. When you going into the mark, there's reasons beyond reasons that you have no business taking that thing. But why? It's because you're a hireling, man. And the hireling cares not for the sheep. It's about the good shepherd. Because that's why you're meant to basically live by the example and teach it and live it. So what? Deuteronomy 37. The Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Most High, and do all His commandments, which I command thee this day. So yeah, we're basically, when we go back to being our right mind, serving the Lord, then them curses are gonna come on the evil, and that's how the Lord's gonna have it go down. That's why when Esau gets taken down, he's going into a hardcore bondage, and he's gonna be getting battered and destroyed, just as Jacob's been battered and destroyed underneath his rule. Everything's gonna flip back, and that's right. That's completely righteous. I read this. Second Thessalonians 1:6. Seeing it is a righteous thing with the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. That's the thing. It's a righteous thing to recompense them that trouble you. And that's something that Esau in this modern age, he's trying to throw that out. Because his whole new, since he's been in power, he's gained, he's been able to build his system. And now he's looking to eliminate the elements he no longer wants and just shore himself up to basically try and rule forever. He's coming with this new doctrine to whereas you should never hold no grudges, don't think about anything, don't factor in the past, and instead just live, come in your life now, everyone's equal, everyone has the same opportunities, and then just go out and find your American dream. That's that new doctrine he's brought in.